I'm going to dive right in for sake of time. This is a note-heavy, intensive conversation, or I'm sorry, presentation here. I'm also going to send out a link to the DVMs, to two YouTubes I put, so two tutorials that I'm going to show you today, but you'll have access to afterwards. So let's get at it. So Zoom, it's really the new platform. SLC is going to be on Zoom. We run training on Zoom. So the fact that some of us aren't as proficient or confident, it's really crippling us. It's like saying, well, I don't know how to get on the internet. I don't know how to get online. Well, then a rep is going to be crippled. I don't know how to drive to a customer's house. A rep is going to be crippled back in the day. So I want to go through a couple of tips here. I've got 2 Zoom tutorials, and then I'll wrap up with some miscellaneous tips. Number 1 is know your environment. And I think part of that is, prepping your family. I know we're all in quarantine. There are different situations, but, even in the Gamboa household, I'll reach out and I'll let Heidi know I'm in a meeting, or, hey, I'm in recording right now. And I think there's almost like a set of rules in our house. When Heidi's on a telehealth call and I'm on a recording, there's just an announcement. So I think making sure, whatever your environment is, if you're not in an office or if you're in a home office, are you aware of the environment? One thing that I see often, and I think can be easily adjusted and can help the quality of your general Zoom, best practices, is just making sure you're eye level. And so however you rig your computer up, they say when your computer's like this, right? And then you can see up someone's nose. Well, that's no fun. And then, looking down is kind of awkward and weird. And I think just making sure that you have elevated your computer into a situation where you're not looking down. It's also not good for your neck, your back, and carpal tunnel syndrome in your wrist, technically. And I know that because I just went to a rehab doctor who said, "Do you sit down a lot?" He goes, "Yes." "Are you on the computer all day?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Were you looking down for a little bit, but then stopped doing that?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Yeah, I can tell." So clinically, I was diagnosed with Eastern Region Pandemic Zoom Syndrome, as they call it. So it can be as easy as this. Now, you can certainly go into Amazon and you can research some great products. I have a $30 metal one that's fancy and adjusts. But in the meantime, before this came in, I had 2 boxes that I was using for goal period April, May. So don't be afraid, as long as you get eye level. I think that's the main thing. Camera quality, I laugh because I just think about how many people are using old school computers. We had a manager this past summer that was using their high school, and they're almost out of college. Oh no, a district manager out of college using their high school laptop. And I just think if we're going to run a state-of-the-art business, and not even state-of-the-art, how about just up to date? Okay, and I think that can take the pressure off of a lot of us. We don't need to be state-of-the-art, but we certainly need to be up to date. So number 1 is your computer at least within 2 years old, 2 years of being a new model? And I'd say that because if it's a 2017 or before, I would encourage you not to buy, but to invest and to update your business. I think that's really important. And it goes without saying. I also think one thing I see often, and people sometimes don't know this, is that there's no possible way to get the same internet quality when you're pulling off of Wi-Fi than if you have it directly plugged in. And it costs, I think, maybe at most $15 to get the wire. If you want to get I have a 30-foot wire. I don't need a 30-foot wire, but I have one. It cost me less than $20. It's a certain speed. You can look them up. G6, I believe. You go right from the modem right to a computer, because how often do we say, well, I looked up at that website and man, it says I have this speed, but it's still slow. Well, you're not pulling from Wi-Fi to that speed. But if you connect, you're fully immersed in that. Okay. Zoom background, pretty straightforward. I think some people have office situations. I look at Scott, and in fact, I'll highlight Scott for a second if you take a look. Hey, Scotty. Hi, Scott. Hey. Right? So he's got a very professional, presidential, as he should, type situation. For me, I have a bookcase, and you could argue mine might even be a little bit too busy, right? Depending on the speaker preference. One of the things I would say for background is less is more, but a blank wall is kind of awkward as well. And virtual backgrounds are cheesy and not professional. Is what I've been told from many, you get scenic backgrounds, and either it's A, hiding a mess, or B, it's distracting in some cases. So finding either office type background, bookshelf type background, or black screen background tends to be acceptable. You can look a lot of these tutorials up online. I think one of the biggest factors is lighting. One of the things I see often are managers where the lighting is off and it looks like they're in the witness protection program with the, you know, when I moved to Wisconsin, I was told that I would be, you know, you can't really engage when you like that. You can't really engage when people are like that. Now, I've seen really fancy setups like this is gamer type, double light, double screen. I think Ben Jackson's got the double screen going for sure. And I don't know if you need this fancy setup, but you can certainly, again, hashtag Amazon Prime, get a less than $30, $50 investment light. And you can be just like the Instagram models. Hi, guys. Right? You can do just like those girls on Instagram. So get a light. Microphone, same thing. You can research. I would say the price point of a decent microphone goes $100 to $200. And what's the investment of that versus not having a microphone and people not hearing you? What did you say? It takes 2 seconds. A lot of the managers, I think in the company, they're not promoting the Blue Yeti microphone. That was the one that we started with, and it kind of has spread like wildfire. But it certainly doesn't have to be that brand. It can be any type of mic. I believe this is similar to what Scott has, and Scott's sound quality has gone through the roof since the beginning of pandemic. And then last thing is just utilizing more pictures. Okay, I think there's a balance, and I'll talk about that after these tutorial videos. But having a balance of pictures is important. Lecturing for 30 minutes straight, we're not keeping people's attention. Okay, so take a few moments. We're not going to share them, but write a few action steps, light bulbs to buy, to put into my cart, Amazon Prime, to discuss with my manager, to set up, to set rules in the household. Okay. Next, I put together 2 tutorial videos, and I'll send these out. I just ask that you guys keep this in-house in Eastern Region, please. This will be an Eastern Region special, okay? So the first video I'm going to share is visually setting up your Zoom, okay? So Scott, I'm going to take 2 seconds. Give me a thumbs up if you hear the sound. On how to properly set up Zoom. Right? Okay, cool. So I'm going to send this YouTube out right now, but just take a look. It's a few minutes, 5 minutes long. On how to properly set up Zoom for a more engaging and more professional presentation, whether it's team meeting, training seminar, or any type of group function. So first and foremost, you want to have certain windows set up. So the first thing I would do is have my Zoom up, right there, like so. Then the keynote, in this case, it's training seminar. On the right, I have my version of whatever music I'll be playing. So for us, it's Spotify. And then whatever notes you'd be using for the message. Second thought is making sure that the notes, if you'll see here, are directly in the center. And if you look here, as I'm looking at my notes, it'll be going right into the camera. So it's a more engaging view versus if my notes were down here or somewhere off, you'll see that I would be constantly looking like that. So therefore, if I move my notes up here, I'm looking at the camera again, more engaging in that case.
Hey, Jeff.
So there,
hey, Jeff.
Yeah. Put that to the
middle.
Is it not playing?
It's not. It's kind of froze, Jeff. I don't think there's any video going right now.
Yeah. No video whatsoever.
For the keynote, I guess for more basic users.
Okay, let me share the full screen.
There's an audio, but no video.
Okay. Can you see the video now?
There you go.
Those of you that have.
All right, let's start over. Sorry, quick.
On how to properly set up Zoom for a more engaging and more professional presentation, whether it's team meeting, training seminar, or any type of group function. So first and foremost, you want to have certain windows set up. So the first thing I would do is have my Zoom up, right there, like so. Then the keynote, in this case, it's training seminar. On the right, I have my version of whatever music I'll be playing. So for us, it's Spotify. And then whatever notes you'd be using for the message. Second thought is making sure that the notes, if you'll see here, are directly in the center. And if you look here, as I'm looking at my notes, it'll be going right into the camera. So it's a more engaging view versus if my notes were down here or somewhere off, you'll see that I would be constantly looking like that. So therefore, if I move my notes up here, I'm looking at the camera again, more engaging in that case. So there, we'll put that to the middle here. Next, for the keynote, I guess for more basic users, those of you that haven't used it as much, you would go to basic and then you'd find your keynote. Okay. And as you share your keynote, you'd hit play. With that is that you can't see your next slide. You can't see, sometimes you can't see everyone else. So rather, to advanced, and then it says portion of screen. What you can do is adjust it so that the viewer will only see whatever is adjusted in this movable screen here. Let me move this down here. So if I click here, welcome to training, I'm looking straight at my notes and I know what's coming next, but they don't see the slide deck on the left. They only see what's right here. Now, if you're in a situation like me where I use the keynote for my notes, or for example, here's my story, welcome, I give a little bit of a background, I'm talking about culture, and all my notes are here embedded into my keynote, which is the preferred method for me, okay? For example, if I'm going through, what you can expect from us, right? Keys to success, and all of these have notes at the bottom. If that's the case, then you can lose the notes from the middle, and I would present it like this. So the keynote that you're looking at, and specifically the notes down here, you adjust the screen, so every time you're reading your notes in this area, you can just look right up and you're still having a center eye view, okay? Then, one other thought is the participants. So if you see here, when it's not a share screen, I'll be looking straight ahead at here, Dr. Heidi Gamboa and Lamar Jackson. When I hit share screen for the window, in this case, portion of the screen, the participants will pop up over here to the right. So if you notice, there's only 3 of us on the Zoom, but when this is 14 and 16 or several pages, I'll just adjust this window so it takes up the entire right side. So to my center, I'll have my notes. To my left, I'll have the keynote. And then to the right, I'll have this big grid so I can still keep people engaged. And then a couple final thoughts here in terms of animation. What's different in using this small window is we're not activating the keynote. We're not hitting play. We're not using the animations if that's what you do. So if we want to go through different slides, it's a little bit different on how to set it up. For example, I'll use the example here of scheduling. Okay. And if you look at our schedule, okay, instead of having a slide like this that's fully animated and each row, low, average, and high flyer in this case pops up, it's each slide just kind of is set up so the next part of the animation comes in. Okay, I'll give you another example of that. So in one of our messages, we talk about leadership development programs. Instead of having this one slide animated where each click pulls up Amazon, Nike, McDonald's, and Apple, when I present it, my first slide looks like this, my second slide's like this, and then until I want to bring it up, okay? And then last but not least, in terms of making sure you kick off a professional keynote, before you actually have people on the Zoom, make sure to click screen and have it already set up. Like, one of the things that I find to be really unprofessional is when a presenter is about to share, they click and they say, let me adjust the screen here, and it's just really not prepared. Versus before you even bring people on board, keep people in the waiting room or keep the Zoom up early, you adjust, and then you can stop it, and the moment that you share screen, it's already where you want it to be. Okay, so that's the tutorial on professionally setting up the visuals.
Okay, so perhaps a few light bulbs there. You want to write down maybe some questions, and then I'm going to take this is a shorter video. Was that helpful, everyone? For those of you that haven't used Zoom before? Okay, and there's a video that went out, so you can watch it a few times. And then the second thing is sharing audio, which I think this is more advanced for sure, because I see a lot of people transition where their sound gets cut off, or the quality of the video, of course, that happened to me, but for different reasons. So take a look here. This is sharing sound.
Okay, we have a tutorial here for setting up audio and how to transition between slides and presenting while keeping up the atmosphere and tempo with the music selection. So first and foremost, you always want to have your setup. So based on our last tutorial, you've got the visuals of your keynote that you're using on the left. Okay, and then on the right, you'll have whatever version of music. In this case, we're using Spotify. Okay, and so when you're on Zoom, if you take a look here, if you hit share screen, if you go to the basic, anytime you want to use one of the share screens but keep the music going, so for example, if I'm sharing my Keynote here using the specific window, okay, you can click this button, which is share the computer sound. So when the computer is going to this window, the sound is still playing. So if I have this music going on here, right, I've got some tempo, people are hopping on for Phone Jam, let's go, we're excited. Now if I take it off, if I stop the visual and hit stop share, right now the music is not playing. So what I would have to do, if I want to keep the music going, but drop the Keynote and be able to speak to people and see everyone, you go to new share. I would just go to this, which is share the computer sound only. And so now you can see up here, I'm sharing the screen sound, so the music doesn't stop. I can see all the windows of everyone on the screen. And if I want to go back to the Keynote, I go right here, and it doesn't skip tempo. The music keeps going as I transition back and forth. Where you lose the music and get that funky break is when you hit stop share at the bottom. Okay. Another quick tip is when you're going between, you don't have to push the selection and hit share. You can just hit enter. It's a lot easier to transition. I'll go share screen. If I want to go to my Keynote, I hit enter, and it goes back and forth. And last thing is, you can adjust where you put this bar. I prefer to keep it in the bottom left. That way it never gets covered up by any of my visuals, or it doesn't get covered up by the picture screen of all the participants. And then
side note, you can also just double click on what you want to go to instead of hitting enter. Just a side note.
last thing is if we're sharing video. So if you're in a position, whether it's training, SMRAs, or rep training. So let me pull up my respective video. So let's say it's SMRA training. Okay, this can be anywhere, and I typically will set it up ahead of time. So before training, it'll be down here, and then if I need it, I'll pull it up. Share screen. Okay. Now here, I'll go and click to share just the window that has the YouTube of the video that I'm playing. I'll make sure to share computer sound, but also I'll hit optimize screen share so that the quality of the video is better. I'll hit enter, and then here we go. So now this is playing. Okay, you can also do full screen if you prefer it that way.
Hello, social media and personal recruiting team members.
So your choice if you want to pull the full screen or just watch the video like that. Okay, so that's the tutorial on sharing sound.
Okay, so now maybe a few light bulbs there real quick. Okay, let me take down this video. Okay. Was that helpful, everyone? I know a couple people are more versed and less versed, and let's not take that for granted. It takes time to learn this. A couple of miscellaneous tips to wrap up. First, I want to talk about teaching Zoom etiquette. What I think is really important is in the first day of training, when you're onboarding people to within the first, 15 minutes of the opening comments, we have specific slides where we're actually going through virtual etiquette. Hey, everyone, before we dive into training, let me share some thoughts on virtual etiquette. For those of you that haven't already, let's make sure you share your screen name or change your screen name so we can take roll. And what we're teaching people, and you would think people understand how to do this, but we really do have to baby them through the process. We have slides on this is how you change your name. So everyone hit participants at the bottom. You find your name on the right. You click the more button, hit rename, and then you're going to change your name again to office, first name, and last initial. So it'll look like this. And which office you're from? Well, depends on who confirmed you for training. So if Karina confirmed you, you put Fort Laud. If it's Luke, Boca, and again, one more time, and I just go through the steps, and then they change your name. I'm usually doing this in the beginning of training, and then I do it a second time in case someone's missing. Next is taking notes. Very similar to Zoom etiquette, we also have slides to teach people how to take notes. And I just think not taking for granted anything, don't assume. So hey everyone, let me show you real quick also how you're gonna get the most and absorb the information. For taking notes, there are two main websites. MyVector Demo is what you're going to use as you read the presentation, and Your Cutco Demo is what the customer will have up for visuals. And then I want you to have two notes set up. I want you to have general notes and then demonstration notes. Okay, so let me explain what that means. So if you look at my desktop, demonstration notes are notes that have to do with what you want to say or adjust in the presentation. General notes is like philosophies. Everything I'm talking about right now in opening comments is general notes. And sometimes you'll have both notes together. Sometimes you have one of the websites and then the demonstration notes. And then you might have the other website and the general notes, depending. So the tip there is just making sure we're teaching people how to take notes. I think a balance of picks. So let me give you a live version of our schedule talk and how we're not just keeping the tip. We're not just keeping the Zoom up the whole time. I think there's an appropriate time to pull down the Zoom. For me personally, I don't like having the pick up for more than 3 to 5 minutes at a time. Right, and it takes a little bit to think about it. So, for example, okay, guys, let's talk about your first weekend schedule. You come back for advanced training, yada, 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 whatever you say about advanced training. And then also, guys, I put this on the slide, the sales leadership development meeting, 4 to 5:30. I want to give you a little heads up on this. The sales leadership development meeting, et cetera, et cetera. You can network and meet the division manager, learn about Leadership Academy. And for those of you that are excited from our opening comments, these are the lessons you can learn from Leadership Academy. Hey guys, and one of the things I want to share, let me give you my pitch for Leadership Academy. So I pull the screen down and then I can give my little, sell it. Anytime you're selling something, building value, becoming passionate, trying to talk about value, you don't want to screen up, you want to be talking. And today, for example, we speak at SLC, the speakers, if there's a point, DVMs, I'll do this tomorrow, I'll put it down and I'll say, hey, DVMs, I can't stress this enough. We've got to make it simple for our DMs. I'll pull my screen down and I'll say that to the DVMs and then I'll pull it back up. Okay. So hopefully a light bulb there. Next is debrief sections, and I'll make it pretty quick. We have this, very famous Jeff Gimbo, not so famous at all, stolen from the internet slide of a light bulb. And these are the sections I find are really important. The longest, most winded sessions, I think need a debrief after. So post intro talk, post value break, Luke runs that for our training hub. During breaks, I like to get debrief, meaning, hey guys, go ahead and take a break. Some people don't pull their videos off. They keep it up and I'll say, Manuel, what's up? How's training? You liking it? Yeah. What are you taking from that one section? Cool. Yeah. And I'll debrief. And it's funny because people will pull their videos back up and they want to talk during the breaks too. So that's how I try to keep it engaged, specifically during the debrief. Last few tips here. During breaks, I just found that 45 to 75 minutes. 45 to 75 minutes. My opening comments is sub or just over 1 hour, if that. There's a debrief in there, so it's broken up a little bit. But from my experience, you don't want to be going past that. So I always think that demo walkthrough, you want to give them definitely a break after. We have about, 5 to 7 breaks worked into the schedule. And if I find that I'm dragging, I'll just take a break. Last few things, onboarding during breaks. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Onboarding during breaks is I want to make sure I'm building rapport from the time they onboard, which is when they hop on, and any of the breaks. So this is a most recent, we just launched 7 SMRAs on Thursday. That's a plug for Scotty there. We just launched 7 in the pilot for us, actually 9 as of Sunday. So this is me, and Rebecca is one of our new SMRAs, and I asked her, so, how did you hear about the job? Or I think it was, what are you excited about? And some like this Megan girl's kind of paying attention. Sophia's probably still trying to figure out WhatsApp, knowing her. And so we're just engaging. I don't mind. And this is in the beginning before training even starts. So I'm building rapport. If they're a PR, I want to talk to them and see how they, do you know how Sammy did with the job? That's pretty cool. This is one of our TLA sessions, and I'm talking to Liz Maseko about coffee, clearly, because she's pulling up her, I think I made the comment about how you're just like your brother. And we just had this rapport conversation before the event started. So use the onboarding and use the breaks to have conversation. I don't take the breaks unless I really have to. I'm working the breaks. And the last 2, notifications off. It's pretty simple. Just go to the top right-hand corner, take off text notification, Google anything notification, WhatsApp notification, because there's nothing more distraction than those things going off, and you can do that beforehand, okay? And the last thing, avoid the before pandemic conversations, okay? Before pandemic. So for example, a couple of things. When you're doing pictures, stop showing pictures of live events if you're virtual. Now, if you're doing live events, great. But if you're showing like paycheck meeting, and at the Wednesday team meeting, everyone's holding up their paychecks, but you don't run Wednesday team meetings live, don't show those. Show Zoom. Show the Zoom. Otherwise, it's not consistent. Also, things like, before we used to, like anytime you say that, you're discrediting. It's like, oh, we're doing Zoom for now, but normally we're in the. So just removing any language that alludes to the business that we are really have evolving away from, like in the home. And just anytime we say we used to before pandemic, I think it sounds like that dad is like, when I was in high school, which you're not, and you're not that in shape. So stop saying that. Right? People say, I'm 42. I have friends like that. Sometimes me. It's like, okay, we got to stop living in the past. Okay. So Scott, right, 11:30. I've ended the message. So I don't know if we have time for questions, but I know that the 2 videos were sent out, and I'm hoping that we were able to provide some instruction on the Zoom tutorial.
Hey, Jeff, that was fantastic. How about a thumbs up from everybody that got a like?